I think I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Charisse, do you want to do the roll call?
Yes, please. Good morning, or good afternoon, everyone. Morning. Michael Cashman.
Present.
Christina Ubel. Here. Anna Lamb.
Yeah.
Heidi Kelly.
Here.
Jim Coffey.
Here.
Sid Garrett.
Here. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, Kalima Gooding. My apologies. Kalima.
Here.
Yeah.
All right, we have some old business to take care of here. We need to approve the agenda from our September 16th meeting. We didn't have a quorum, so I'll take a motion to approve that agenda. All right, someone said second. Jim, thank you. All in favor? Okay, and then we need to approve the minutes from that meeting. Hopefully everybody had a chance to go through them. I'll take a motion. Christina, second. Jim, all in favor? Aye. Before we get started with today's business, we're on a little bit of a tight timeline. If we're going to take our tour of the cybersecurity facility, we need to do that at 2:30. So hopefully we can move this along. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Agnetti for your report.
Thank you very much, and I will be quick. So first of all, again, thank you all for being here today. We appreciate the opportunity to meet with you and also appreciate your engagement and dedication to our mission. Today, I want to just highlight some of the important activities that are happening and some of the progress that's occurring. So again, I would always refer you back to our website for the Clinton Community College co-location progress. I would say that we're on track for the August 15th, 2025 grand joining. We're not going to be, I don't envision cutting a ribbon. I envision us bringing two ribbons together with a little magnet inside, sort of as a secret little thing, and joining essentially the missions of the two campuses side by side. So again, that's August 15th. So put that on your calendars right now. That would be Clinton, SUNY Plattsburgh, and the entourage from the Chancellor's office. We are currently retrofitting new spaces for the units that are relocating. That includes spaces in Beaumont Hall for anthropology and sociology, criminal justice in Ward Hall, and the Center for the Study of Canada, which will be located at 102 Broad Street, right across the street from Kehoe. And undergraduate admissions will be moving to the 10th floor of Kehoe once the modifications, repairs, and updates due to the floods, floor 2 grid, and that's due to wrap up early in January. And the hope is that we'll be able to assist the admissions program space, admissions department to move into the programming space on the 10th floor. Again, we're testing everything for asbestos, for lead, mold to ensure safety before the construction begins. So it's a very prescriptive process is being taken. And again, on the website for SUNY Plattsburgh, we're listing all these activities. So I'm pleased that we're making progress there. The next thing I want to just talk about is that as a consequence of the change in venue for the Welcome Center, and if you recall, 2 years ago, we started speaking about the fact that Red Cave was approaching its end of life usefulness. And the only way it could continue to be a viable building was to go through a major retrofit. And so in response to that, the system indicated that we would be able to do that if we did it as a welcome center or did it as some sort of a building that would serve as an admissions facility. That all changed last May, and actually earlier when the decision was made to co-locate Clinton. But I'm pleased to say that we're now making progress on the development of the new Welcome Center, which will be in the Algonquin Dining Hall, located on Ruger Street, across from our residential life locations. Basically, residential life is to the left if you stand looking towards Detroitburg or Clinton Hall. Timeline for construction, essentially is to begin in September of 2026. Again, with the grand opening. I think someone's on the, hello, whoever joined us. With a grand opening in January of 2028. So that's the plan for the undergraduate admissions. And again, The last thing I want to just go back to with respect to our movement out of Clinton, the movement for Clinton to get into Red K and to Court Street. Departments and units are going to move in a phased fashion. So, for example, Gender Women's Studies has already moved from Red K. We're preparing spaces, as I mentioned, for the admissions area, and more importantly, for anthropology, for criminal justice, and for the sociology departments. Those spaces will become available mid-March, and so they'll have a phased-in move to be able to transition into Beaumont or Ward Hall by the end of April. So it'll all happen phased. And then we'll be moving the Expeditionary Studies group out of the little house across the Key Hub, doing a major retrofit there that will include ADA compliance. And then we'll be assisting the Canadian Studies program to move into that house. And in total, there's approximately 12 different departments or units that are moving around as a consequence of this. So it's complicated, but it's in tremendously good hands with our tremendous colleagues in A&F and with the construction fund and with all the contractors who are working externally to make this happen. The I've been admitted to college program, or IBAC, continues to grow and expand its impact here in the North Country. We this past fall hosted 540 eighth graders who travel from 8 different North Country schools, and we're anticipating another 500 plus students here in spring of 2025. And beginning next semester, IBAC is going to transition from my office to the Division of Enrollment and Student Success. This shift will allow us for a broader reach and will provide a greater ability to demonstrate the critical importance of college access to students and families throughout the region. It's envisioned that with this shift and being able to provide an individual or a position that would include this responsibility, we'll have better engagement with teachers, guidance counselors, students, and parents, and that will build on the visit that they have when they come to the campus, because we just don't want that to be a one and done. We want to have continual communication as students move out of 8th grade into 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th as they finally transition to the university. I would be remiss not to recognize that we've received generous grants from the community. The Adirondack Foundation has supported the IBAC work with grants to our campus in the amount of $1,000, supports transportation and food for the 8th graders. And then the Noon Hour Kiwanis, with the support of our very own Nancy Church and Kimberly Davis, has provided 2 grants of $500 to support lunch and transportation. So it's becoming a strongly community involved project. And I'm supposed to tell you that, and the volunteer who's run this program, Andrea Yeti, is handing this project off, and she's looking for other opportunities to serve our campus and to enhance student success. But it's to a place where a single volunteer, it's beyond the scope of a single volunteer. Let's put it that way. It needs to be coordinated as I'll say, an investment on the part of the campus. So it's grown and it's morphed. So it's good news. So moving on from IBAC to why we do IBAC, it's all about the enrollment. And I'm pleased to report that the fall student headcount stands at 4,541 students, and that surpassed the budget projection by 124. And it reflects a nearly 3% increase over last year. And we did a press release last week, thank you to Heather and to Jerry and Downs, indicating it's the 2nd year in a row that we've seen an enrollment increase. But more importantly, it's the first time since 2021 that we've seen an enrollment that's peaked above 4,500 students. This would not have happened without the incredible work of admissions and our financial aid teams. We navigated challenges of FAFSA. I think I've used the word fiasco in the past. There's other words you could use. But the bottom line is nationally, enrollments are down between 5 and 7% of first-time undergraduates. That did not happen in the SUNY. We worked extra hard, and I know that our financial aid group and our admissions team worked extra hard to be able to bring in an increase. And we're slightly above the increase that the system saw as a whole, but we're tracking in the same territory. Why is enrollment important? Because it feeds directly to our budget. And when it comes to the budget, I'm pleased to report that our interim VP, Megan Renadette, will present an update on our financial stability plan, our capital projects, and give a almost like a hint as to what will be going on with respect to space management during an all-campus meeting to be held on November the 21st, and I believe it starts at 12:30. So you're all welcome to attend, and I'd recommend that you do, if you can, tune in. It's a great session that will provide insights into our progress, our priorities, and how we're continuing to work on our financial stability plan. And something that I've been waiting to talk about since the beginning of the fall is our reserve balance. Megan's telling me not to say anything, but now I can. I'm pleased that when we began the fiscal year back in July of 23, we had approximately a $14 million reserve balance, and that's stateside dollars. I'm more pleased to say that this grew to a little bit over $15 million with the start of the 24-25 fiscal year. So we've grown essentially our reserve balance. However, there's more to the story, and I don't want to steal Megan's thunder, but we're going to reveal an all funds budget for the first time, maybe in the history of SUNY Plattsburgh. It will basically detail all the different funding sources that we have on this campus, what's fungible, what's not, and where those accounts sit in today's climate of changing student population. We're not simply an undergraduate institution anymore. We've become a very, very strong graduate institution. That has an impact on tuition, has an impact on dormitory fees and meal plans. We're becoming more of a transfer school than a traditional undergraduate institution in terms of first-time freshmen, 17, 18-year-olds. That's a trend that represents the national move with respect to higher ed. So stay tuned for that. I want to acknowledge the incredible work that went through Allison's area, Allison Bird's area in DEI as we observed Black Solidarity Day, the day before Election Day. It was an important day to reflect on basically racial justice and equity. And I would be remiss to not simply say that it all fell on Allison's area. It was a collaborative across campus. And I know Bridget's on the line on the Zoom call as well. This was a collaborative that went through the Senate, through all the university employees and our students. And I would say this is the third one we've held.
And I would say our unions too, to be able to get time release.
Absolutely, yeah. So they improve every year. And that's really a tough thing to do because I think the first one was pretty darn good. So we are making strides to actually make this an important event, not just at SUNY Plattsburgh, but across the system. So thank you, Allison, for the work on Black Solidarity. Thank you to Bridget, and thank you to both Michelle and Christy as well. And Klima, yes, Klima too. Thanks to the students. So I also want to let everyone know that we're going to be celebrating alumni through the North Country Impact Award. The nominations are now open for the North Country Impact Award, which recognizes outstanding alumni contributions to their fields and communities. Nominations are due by January 10th, 2025. So I would encourage you to nominate individuals who exemplify and basically show off the values and achievements of SUNY Plattsburgh. And also in the spirit of giving, on December 3rd, SUNY Plattsburgh will participate in Giving Tuesday, an important chance for our community to support the Plattsburgh College Foundation through gifts with heart. And again, every contribution that happens to come to the foundation supports the mission of student success and academic excellence. I also want to acknowledge the fact that we hosted a successful University Faculty Senate plenary. This brought together senators from across the system to our campus on October 24th to 26th. It was made possible again by dedicated faculty and staff on our campus in different divisions and different areas. I know that Sharice did an incredible amount of work being the point person for coordination, but our IT division did an incredible amount of work, as did the work that happened through, again, Bridget and the Senate, but also everyone else on campus. One of the best compliments we received, well, actually two, the food is great, the campus looks beautiful. And that doesn't happen unless there's a lot of work that happens in the background. So thank you to facilities. Thank you again to the work that occurred on campus to make this happen. And again, it's an opportunity for us as our campus to host and acknowledge the importance of shared governance and collaboration as we shape the future of educational policy and certainly better serve students in the future. So in closing, I want to extend my appreciation to everyone that's here to contributed to their success for this semester. Again, as members of the council, your efforts will help shape the future of SUNY Plattsburgh. And I'm just excited to continue to build on this progress as we move forward together. Thank you very much. And I would say, I don't want to steal this from the chancellor, but SUNY Plattsburgh is a campus on the move as well. So thanks for being here today. And with that, back to you.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, we'll move on to my part here. First thing that I want to cover is a resolution to name the Martin D. Managed Meeting Room in the Angel College Center. Anne, are you on there? Do you want to talk a little bit about how this came about?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So this is really a wonderful opportunity to honor our dear friend, Marty Mannix. Marty made a bequest to the College Foundation of $25,000. So it was a very generous bequest. And as you all know, SUNY has a policy regarding the naming of the permanent naming, I should say, of physical space. So the University Council has the authority to approve the naming of space. And so the proposal here is that we honor Marty as our first ever president of the Student Association, someone who dedicated his entire life to service and most importantly, service to SUNY Plattsburgh. So we would like to honor him by naming meeting room number 1, which is in the Angel College, kind of off Flint Commons down the hall there. And it's a room that is used with great regularity by our students. Student Association has club meetings there. A lot of the union meetings take place there. It's just used with great frequency. So it'll really honor him in an effective way. And the thought would be that if this is approved, that we would have a dedication ceremony in the spring, potentially after the April University Council meeting, so that council members will already be on campus that day. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this. I'm sure that most of the council members were present for the last naming that we did on campus, which was for Phoebe Sturm in Memorial Hall. So you're familiar kind of with the process. Are there any questions?
Okay, with that, I'm going to read the resolution and then we'll take a vote. Whereas Martin D. Mannix Jr.'s engagement with SUNY Plattsburgh was central to his life from the time he enrolled as a student through his graduation in 1964 and continued during his entire lifetime as an alumnus. And whereas Mr. Mannix was personally mentored by SUNY Plattsburgh President George W. Angel to pursue a role in student government and was elected by the student body as the first president of the newly established Student Association. And whereas Mr. Mannix was inspired by United States President John F. Kennedy's inaugural call to service, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, and committed his life to serving others. And whereas Mr. Mannix's dedication to his community was unparalleled as he dedicated a remarkable 35 years of service as a member of the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board, Deputy Supervisor, and Town Justice. And whereas Mr. Mannix's leadership extended to his role at the Clinton County Democratic Party as a delegate to the 1972 National Convention, as chair of the Democratic Party of Clinton County for 8 years, and also participated as a member of the Plattsburgh Lions Club, Plattsburgh Rotary Club, Plattsburgh Kiwanis Club, and school board member for St. John's Academy. And whereas Mr. Mannix's commitment to helping others reached international shores, particularly through his charitable work in Nicaragua with the Mission of Hope. And whereas Marty's legacy of community service and his love for his family will continue to inspire those who had the privilege of knowing him. And whereas Mr. Mannix was appointed by New York State Governor David Patterson to serve on the then SUNY Plattsburgh College Council in 2008, continued to serve on the council of SUNY Plattsburgh for 16 years, most recently serving as the chair of the council. and presided over the recruitment process to recommend the appointment of SUNY Plattsburgh's 11th president, President Alexander Agneti. And whereas Marty supported the Plattsburgh College Foundation annually for more than 4 decades and provided a generous bequest which supports student scholarships. Now therefore be it resolved that the University Council of State University of New York at Plattsburgh officially recommends to the president that meeting room 1 within Angel College Center be formally and permanently named as the Martin D. Mannix Jr. Meeting Room. And be it further resolved that the University Council gratefully acknowledges Martin D. Mannix for his distinguished service to SUNY Plattsburgh, the North Country community, and his country. Any questions? Anyone want to make a motion? Okay,
Would like to.
seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimously passed. We, this is a great way to honor Marty, and I'm really pleased that we were able to do this. So thank you, Ann, for that.
Great.
That's great. Okay, the only other thing that I really need to address today in this meeting is you will notice that we are not voting on a Distinguished Service Award recipient at this point. Sid, Michael, and I met a month or so ago and reviewed the nominations. And I think we are really struggling with the description of the award and what it really means. And I think this has been going on for several years. I know Marty struggled with it when there's been debates back and forth about what really constitutes distinguished service. And the description of the award is really quite vague. It recognizes persons who have directly or indirectly played a key role in advancing SUNY Plattsburgh. This award, given at the pleasure of the University Council, was originally conceived by former President Dr. George W. Angel. So some of the discussion involved does this mean, is it somebody who works on campus, or it shouldn't be somebody who's working on campus presently? Should it be somebody that's more involved in the community and promoting Plattsburgh in the community? And we just don't know. And what really means distinguished service, as opposed to everybody here does a great job. Everybody works hard, and what makes one person more distinguished than another? We just don't know. So what I would like to do is gather a small committee of council members to go through this and refine the description of the award and maybe come up with some parameters that would help people when they go through the nominating process to really think about a worthy recipient and go through that process that way. So I will be reaching out to you via email to get people willing to serve on this committee and, talk to you a little bit about the timeline and how I thought it should go. So does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you. All right, that was all I had. We'll move on to divisional reports. I'm going to ask everybody has had an opportunity to read the reports that you sent through, Sharice, and they were very thorough. If you could highlight 1 or 2 things that you really want people to, key in on, that would be helpful. So, Dr. Ty, you're up.
Okay. So I'm, can I be paid by the word and highlight 3? So many good things going on in academic affairs. I've included just a small subset with all of the amazing teams. A couple of the initiatives I'm trying to spearhead to give you just a taste of a highlight. For example, we had a Center for Teaching Excellence Director, at least for another position, a year ago, Jessman. And there was an opportunity there, as we have just a faculty fellow directing the center, to do just a replacement hire. But working with teams and getting input from shared governance, I heard that maybe we could redesign the Center for Teaching Excellence and Technology Enhanced Learning to better support new program development, graduate program development, online program development. president has said are growth areas for us, as well as enhancing teaching excellence and technology enhanced learning in our current courses, in person as well as online. And so I called together a small task force with Student Success Learning Center, as well as faculty from each of the 3 schools and some others from TEL, with input from CTE to try to figure out, could we do a redesign with just one hire of how that's organized? And that committee has been working this semester. Hopefully by next semester, we'll have some improvements where with a very resource efficient way we can support teaching excellence, technology enhanced learning, and also new program development as well. A couple of other highlights in the calendar year 2025. I'll be working with stakeholders throughout the institution on a guiding academic plan to help guide where resources go, which academic programs to focus on. And also co-chairing with the chair of the Faculty Senate, a strategic planning committee. Thanks to the president, I'll have this wonderful opportunity and privilege and honor. So that when our current strategic plan, Plattsburgh Next, concludes in December 2025, hopefully January 1st of 2026, we'll have a new strategic plan. And that will be a very, very exciting opportunity to shape the future of the institution. And then I'm paid by the word, right? And then the very last thing, a couple of weeks ago, I came back from the Chief Academic Officers convening of SUNY administration. And my gosh, we're doing so well compared to so many comprehensives. That it's tragic that some of the SUNY comprehensives are really struggling, but I feel like we are on such a good trajectory. It is a credit to everybody at this institution, and we've got so much to be grateful for and to look forward to. We have stability, growth, fiscal responsibility, and these are all things which many of our peer institutions in the system do not have. And so I think we have a very, very bright future to look forward to, as well as the present within the system. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Ty based on his report? Or... Thank you very much. Anne, want to highlight a few things?
Yeah, so very quickly, just to maybe remind people that we're going through some pretty significant staffing transitions within institutional advancement. So many of you are aware that Faith Leach, our Director for Development, is retiring in January. Big shoes to fill there. We also have one of our CSEA employees who none of you know, but Sharon St. Louis has literally touched every single gift and every single data entry change that we've made to our database over the past 20 years. She leaves really big shoes to fill. So we do have some big transitions that we're going through. Fortunately, we have some great people serving on search committees. So we're keeping that rolling. And the only other thing I wanted to quickly share is that we do have some dates to share with you. We do have a holiday reception that the council has been invited to. Just want to make sure it's on your calendar, 12/10, that's December 10th in the evening up at Valcor. Also, we will be having a retirement reception for Faith on January 23rd. You will get an invite for that shortly. We're very fortunate that a member of our board of the foundation is sponsoring that event. So we're able to do that for Faith. Really looking forward to honoring her. And then Dr. Ignetti mentioned the North Country Impact Award. Just to remind you all that the deadline for nominations comes really fast. So January 10th is a deadline. So maybe over the holidays, you all take a little time to think about who in the North Country is worthy of being honored, and please do nominate people. That's it.
Any questions for Anne on her report? Michael.
And I just wanted to give you a piece of feedback. I know I had mentioned this before, but I heard it again from a different area of the community. People love the idea of the North Country Impact Award, but they're shocked at how much material is required to make a nomination. I really think, I don't know how many applications or nominations you got last year. I would really urge simplification of that nomination process.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I do know that the submission of additional material such as a CV or anything really is optional.
I know.
But
The way that it presents, and I share that from two educators. They're
yes,
wonderful
and
educators, so I think when they just looked at it, it's just like, oh, yeah, that's a lot of material, and it's the time of year. So when
Yeah.
those two compound, so just food for thought.
And I should probably also share that the deciders on this award, the decisions do not rest within institutional advancement. So the deans within each school have a committee, and they were a huge part of the design of the criteria and selection. So, but I will take that feedback to them, rest assured.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Heather, highlights from communications and marketing.
So I think highlights are pretty much here. One thing that I am excited about is that we are nearing the end of our digital ad vendor relationship. So we're going out for a new competitive RFP on that, and we've increased our spend on that. So I think that Karen's team and mine, we've been able to really collaboratively figure out what we want in this RFP, and I think it was worded very well. So I'm looking forward to good things to come there, because we know that's where our prospects really are, and their families, they're on digital programs. So that's a new addition. And I think the other highlight is just the addition of our internal communications person, who is really firmly in place and doing really well. We had our first communications council meeting last month. We have our second one tomorrow. And that brings together all the major communicators on campus within each division, each program, each area. We have about 22 people on the council, but it's manageable, and we're going to do some really good work and tie a lot of stuff together so that we're pooling resources and collaborating more. And just overall, I think this team in the past even year, I've seen a lot of growth in number, but also and less practical execution, because that's a good temptation. People also take the time to be strategic and to really measure the ROI and just to see that growth. So I'm proud of their willingness to, kind of hold tight and also help educate campus, help work and that. So it's the bulk of it.
Anybody have any questions from board? Allison.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I just wanted to make a few additional comments about Black Solidarity Day. And so in addition to thanking the committee and the many people who really put a lot of wonderful energy toward getting the program and the pre-planning, I just also wanted to highlight our ability this year as we grow to also be able to analyze our web analytics. So grateful to the communications and marketing team. I did add some of that information into the document, as well as our ability to have streamed the sessions this year. And I heard from so many of you as council members who also could not physically be here, who were able to really see the great quality of the streaming, and even being able to see the distinguished Canadian speaker. And I mentioned that to also highlight really the wonderful programs that we have on campus. And namely, again, I mentioned our communications and marketing team, but our communication studies program. And what a lot of people don't see behind the scenes is that we had many students who were actually shooting footage. Alongside, when we had our keynote speaker, we had 2 professional staff who came from PBS Mountain Lake. And one of the people obviously has many years in this field. But for our students in this program to be mentored by faculty and to be able to do some of the same work, again, are things that we should really be amplifying and bragging on. So I did add those numbers there. And some of the additional campuses that we also had that were able to participate virtually. And then I also just wanted to comment on the data set that I added. So it was approximately 1 year ago when I mentioned at this university council meeting that I was grateful for the collaboration with institutional effectiveness. And our communications and marketing team to be able to amplify how we look on campus. And so there are many people who commented after looking at the website. And then when we're at our the open house programs to support ESS and other divisions, that we've been able to also let people know that we're not just comprised of all students or all employees from New York State. And so Human Resource Services has been doing something to amplify employees that we have that are from out of state. And then also wanted to add these numbers. And if I gave a really quick overview, I would say we're about 2% up, increased overall from this time 2 years ago in terms of our diversity of our undergraduate students. And we're a little down, of course, decreased with our international students, but that's a trend, right, that we see nationally. We have seen some gains also in terms with our graduate students. And not just in terms of the diversity of our students, but our first generation college students and our own students who are choosing to apply to graduate school or to participate in the 4+1 programs. So again, much of that is also due to the mentoring of some of our own faculty who are telling our students, if you aren't ready to enter the workforce, what are some additional programs that we might offer on our campus to be able to captivate our students. And then lastly, I would just say that I think alongside everything that is just happening nationally, this is an opportunity for our campus to reimagine the work that we currently do. And I've often said that I believe that, and the president and I have had a preliminary conversation about certain positions in the cabinet, for example, of the new president-elect not necessarily being named, and whether or not we prepare ourselves for some real changes in, for example, the Department of Education. This is not a topic right now that SUNY Central has necessarily addressed, but it's certainly a topic that we are having on our campus, and I would look forward to embracing that conversation in terms of what that might look like with University Council, with our Faculty Senate, and so forth. So I just kind of say that in general terms, and we're pressed for time today.
I think that speaks to something that you had.
Got to bring it up during Karen's section just because it's one of the program, but everyone's received the email. I won't go through the full thing, but very concerned about the political landscape. And again, this is not finger wagging at administrations. I think it's careful of that, but we have two, and there are many programs federally funded that were in the crosshairs before. And one of those programs finds itself tied up in the continuing resolution of funding, and then the transition as it goes into the next funding cycle with the new administration. And that's our TRIO Student Support Services Program, which is federally funded. It's the 15th largest program in the nation. And I just dial that in because I think sometimes people think as a North Country community university that, you know, we're just like one little drop in the bucket. But that's a very significant drop, and then there's upward bound, et cetera. So as an advocacy group, I would just like to see us work in tandem and in concert with SUNY Central College, not to step over the line, but to work in partnership, because we're also about to lose our member of Congress for a period of time. There's rippling effects going around, so we all need to have a seat at the table so that we can be advocates in arms. That's it.
Jim?
I do. I was just looking at the diversity on Asian Americans I checked the SUNY system in general is, I think, 8.6. We're 2 points there. Are we is there any effort? I know it's probably not an easy thing to do, but is there any effort to attract more Asian students?
So that might be something that Karen might be able to speak to more in terms of enrollment and student support, but I would tell you in terms of certainly our retention of students, we've tried to focus more on that, especially, and it's been even more pronounced this past year in terms of what things are we offering in terms of learning services or faith communities and those sorts of things, but it's probably specifically related to enrollment and the increases that would probably be Karen, but that's a great question. Thank you.
Answer.
So there aren't any targeted, Heather and I can tell you, we're not targeting around certain race or ethnicity groups. But if you think about, we do extensive, travel and recruitment in areas around New York State where there's a higher percentage, let's say, of Asian Americans. But again, it's a big lift to get students even from downstate here. But to Allison's point, we have needs that they may have. But again, we don't target race and ethnicity specifically.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Okay. And so Karen will move right to you.
I just want to put a couple of nuances on the enrollment report that the president gave, because I think it's important. So often we as a group focus in on new students, and I think we always have to be looking at our retention. So one of the things that we're proud of is that year over year, what we keep track of is the persistence rate of all students who are graduating to the next term. And so for this year, we experienced an 82.4% return rate of non-graduates, which is a 1.4% increase over last year, the year before. And it's the highest return rate we've seen since the 2019 pandemic. So we're making progress in that. So I think that's important to look at. We also always, part of Plattsburgh Next is looking at student success and retention. And we knew we had a really big first to second year retention rate goal within Plattsburgh Next. And we experienced a year over year improvement also at 1.4%, bringing our first year retention rate from the cohort that enrolled in 2023 to 72.8%. Now, that masks a lot of things when you look at things collectively. So I just want to give you a couple of things that I'm looking at. So one is the geographics of it. So our highest return for first year students comes from the Capital District and from Long Island. Students who enroll here are returning at a rate of about 75%. New York City drops down slightly to 73%. But the North Country students return at only 69%. So one of the things we're working on with institutional effectiveness is delving into those cohorts differently. So for example, with North Country, is it certain counties of the 7-county North Country? Is it commuters versus students who live on campus? And then how do we redesign maybe some different programs that kind of get at those needs? But we also have to look at New York City and the North Country, knowing that a higher number of those students are in the program and the Cardinal Achievement Program. And those programs have a first to second year retention rate of only about 62.5%. So we have to really segment the geography around those specialty groups as well to be able to design things. So also interestingly, on transfer students, main campus transfer students are returning at a rate of 87%, Queensbury at 91%, but online transfer students only at 80%. So again, we can't just cumulatively look at things. So the whole group, which is made up of like 30 individuals, we actually are spending more time thinking about, again, segmentation and directed interventions. A quick update on where we are for fall 2025, because we had a good year, but we need to keep that momentum going. On the graduate side, this year we started early on virtual sessions about different programs, different financial opportunities, and they've already had over 450 students register for those events, and they're going exceptionally well. That level of engagement is critically important for grad students as much as for undergrads. They're having a good recruitment year so far. It's early in the grad world, but applications are up 127%, acceptances are up 75%, and deposits are up 33%. Again, those numbers are small, so percentages appear to be stronger than what they may be when you look at the undergraduate side. On the undergraduate side, we had a very successful second fall open house this past Saturday. We had 200 families attending. The 3 prior, the 2 last year, and the 1 we already had this year only averaged 127 people. So to have that big increase was really great. The president was there, and I think you could say it was an energetic day. On the application side for undergraduates for fall, we are up 15% over this time last year, which is about 800 applications up. And over a 2-year rate, that's a 35% increase of applications. On the acceptances, right now, we are just under 3,500 acceptances, which is up 23% over this time last year. And guess what? 2 years ago, we had nobody accepted at this point. So things are headed in the right direction, you know, and I think what this shows you is that we are making grounds. The president said it's the first time in many years that we hit 4,500, but we're seeing that stabilization, which we need to have, and then our growth. And our growth is going to come in small increments. We're not going to go, you know, increase all of a sudden year over year by, 1,000 students, but things are headed in the right direction, both for recruitment.
I do have a question. I don't even know if you were here at that time. When I went to one of the first meetings I went to, there was sort of a scorecard, I guess, of graduating seniors, I think, and how they were, I guess, happy with what they learned and going on. Is that still, we keep track of that anymore or not?
So since one of the things that we do in career development is the first destination survey. And it may have been called something different. I wasn't here for what you were talking about, the student satisfaction, it sounds like. But one of the things that we realized when we looked at the graduates from 23, we have what we're calling a 95% placement rate. And that is for our students who are fully employed in graduate school or doing national service. And that's the highest that it's been. So I think that probably gets at some of the satisfaction that you're talking about. They're persisting, they're finding good outcomes, which again, we're in the outcomes business. And so on the salary side, the average income for undergraduates was first job out of college was 52,000. When you add in the grads, it's 55,000. And then when you look at med tech and nursing, those students averaged a $78,000 first time income.
Okay, just think for bragging rights, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, those, I mean, it's, I think how we are leveraging and all of, on the website, all of our messaging.
Information to incoming students. Right.
We weave those top level messaging into everything that we work on, both in admissions and certainly with marketing and communications, whether it's print, social, or email communications.
I thought that we were always too modest here in Plattsburgh for the good work we do. But anyway, that's great.
Hey, can I just expand on one other comment that I want to ask Karen, if you had any updates or if you come across stuff, could you put it out to the council? I think it'd be appreciative. Pell Grants are a huge component of, there's talk about whether the Department of Education will or won't go away. I think one of the more serious things that could happen is a restructuring of Pell Grants.
Yeah.
Right? Or going to a block grant program for some of these federal programs. So if anything that you come across that you could share with us, just from a knowledge base would be very helpful. But my very direct question to leadership of the campus is, given the fact that we are a first generation university, are we prepared financially to make financial adjustments for staff that are on federal lines?
So I will say that's, and I know that's just for us to think about, but last week I did attend a meeting with 3 state legislative entities who talked about what percentage of the federal budget is actually used to be infused into education in terms of the state budget. And it is a significant amount that people don't necessarily always talk about. And I attended last year in March, a conference where that specifically was changed. So not with it going away, but even with the formula changing, it could have a significant impact. So.
Yeah, I'm not looking for answers. It's the primer to the conversation that, people in the community are talking about. And that's why I bring it to your attention is it's one of those localized programs where Upward Bound is even a feeder group to, us and so on and so forth. So appreciate your attention.
No, so one of the things that, of course, I've been talking with our access and opportunity programs, folks, we always have to be thinking about the program. So when the federal government moved the due dates for the new trio and Upward Bound applications, and we made sure we got in. So we hopefully will be hearing this winter because it was part of the approved budget. And if we can get our allocation, it would be a 5-year allocation. But there's more and more programs in greater need. So even if we receive funding, it may not be at the same level, even for this go around. And we service, over 700 students as part of TRIO here on this campus. And those are not people who are receiving financial incentives, you know, that is so much of direct student support, academic coaching and tutoring that will happen. President and I started talking about, you know, what would be the impact of administration on Pell. You know, the state of New York isn't going to absorb all Pell losses into the TAP program. And then what would we do for direct student support? When you look at all of our access and opportunity programs, you know, we're serving for 60% of our student population. So that matters. And fortunately, right now, so much of the funding for our accessibility resources is from the state, because we've seen growth of 1,000 clientele in ARO to 1,400 in 1 year.
And the question you're bringing up about Pell and certainly even the TRIO programs, Pell, I believe, is around $15 billion a year investment. And over 50% of all undergraduates who are enrolled right now get form of Pell grants. So the change in the structure of how Pell grants would have I would say, a phenomenal impact on higher education across the entire United States. It would disrupt in many ways the capacity for over half of the students in the country to be able to attain and achieve an undergraduate education. So that's sort of like the big picture.
Oh, I agree, and that's why I want to dial into a specific, rather than this kind of like fluid thing of like, oh, the Department of Education may go away. Well, I think we need to look more realistically into, you know, segments of what could happen and, you know, the rippling effect, you know, that, because that's been proposed multiple times and it's gained more and more traction over the last several years. So,
and I'll say your more local question about what's the impact of federal dollars on employment is an important one to know. We, and Megan gets to have the next slot when Karen wraps up. Part of the reason we do the all funds discussion beginning next week is to simply say that we use funding outside of the state dollar realm to support employment on this campus as well. So it's another issue that's rolling up. And I'm not going to steal any of the thunder that Megan has, but that too is a major consideration in terms of how we can move forward on the campus. Thank you.
I'd like to also comment, when you were at these meetings and you were talking to people, please keep in mind what's going on in the financial areas right now. I'm terrorized of the public school systems. If we can't get what we need for funding in order to prep the students all students, but definitely the students that you're referring to in the wonderful programs that we have in the Plattsburgh State. I have no words. I've spoken them all, I guess. Anyway, so anything you can do, even if you think it's just a minor thing, please speak up. It'll help us here in the end. And better yet, it'll help all those wonderful students that really we need. We need them to be educated. Thank you.
Well, and something else that came up, I think you mentioned that we're losing our congressional representative here. There's going to be I'll call it a runoff election to determine that. It's likely going to be someone who's already got a political profile in our region. Don't be shy about texting, don't be shy about calling, don't be shy about emailing and simply saying, hey, when you are now down in Washington, keep in mind why this is important. I think that's really our next advocacy step.
absolutely, and what I meant in that statement, to be clear, is it just means though that there will be a period of time that we do not have a full person sitting at the table lending their voice for us. That's not a political statement, that's a factual thing. There will be a vacant seat for a period of time, which means that we have less leverage of getting our voice directly into the pipeline of what we need to. So, yeah, but I would agree, we'll have someone local. Yes.
A question about the international students. What programs that attracts these international students?
Yeah, at the undergraduate level, it tends to be our School of Business. That's really primarily. This year, we saw a lot of our students were from Japan, from African nations. We really don't attract many students from European countries or South America. So it tends to be Africa.
Why do they choose Plattsburgh?
Many of them will tell you it's our financial options. You know, when you talk to students, some of it is they hear New York and they think it's the city. So some of it is location, some of it is our scholarships. And they also like that we are an optional practical training institute. So when they graduate, they can stay for their year and do the optional practical training. And that is very exciting.
And I just wanted to add, our top 5 countries are also included in the demographic report.
Just to add, Karen and I are working together with the deans to try to identify new programs that would be more attractive for international students. And if they seem to naturally fall into SBE in terms of where our programs fall, but I'm optimistic that that will, we'll be getting even more programs. And Brent last year had some very clever ideas when he was interim provost. For, having programs which may not currently be OPT eligible, but a pathway where they could become in the future. And so I'm quite optimistic that, working collaboratively as we are, we'll be able to grow that section of our portfolio.
Okay, we'll move on. Megan?
We'll just cover one item, which is the all funds budget in my report. The format that you see, it's the same one that I presented over the summer, it's just updated. As President Yeti said, I will be taking a deeper dive into this. If you're able to attend this Thursday at 12:30 in Milton 200. It will be the first time that presenting all funds unanticipated plan to this campus. So I'll go into some great details as to what that is, so people can understand that as for the introduction.
Megan, will that be streamed somehow or?
I'm not going to stream it for my first time presenting to campus. I am going to keep it in-house for them, not to say future presentations won't be that, but I wanted to keep the factors smaller. Michelle and I were just talking about that. She said, you do you, and I said, okay, I'm going to for Thursday. But to go into that, into the financial stability plan, I want to highlight all Karen's hard work and everybody else on this campus. We do have a positive upward trend in our enrollment, and I think this is the first time in quite a while. So we did budget, as Karen alluded to, 4117. Our projection for fall is 4540, and then our fall student room occupancy is 1652. So what did that result in dollars? That resulted in an increased revenue from our budget of $1.9 million. Now that's made up primarily of tuition. But in addition to that, interest was a huge increase in that. I do take a stance of budgeting conservatively for interest because it's kind of our cushion if it's good. If we don't meet our tuition targets, or if the market takes a dive, we have some cushion there. The plan was built assuming that there is no tuition increases, so we have not recognized a tuition increase from SUNY in quite a while. I have not heard any chatter that we will be experiencing a tuition increase in the near future. They do determine that, the SUNY Board of Trustees determines the tuition amounts every June at their board meeting. So we'll know more filters at a time, but at this point in time, I have not included any tuition increases. The plan also assumes room rent increase of 4% annually. That was decided upon many years ago when we undertook our renovations of our dormitory facilities. In order to fund that, as we have to take out a bond or a mortgage to fund that, part of that plan, that capital plan, assumed a 4% increase annually in our room rates to fund it. It does also assume our permanent state support will remain at our fiscal year 24-25, our current year levels. Now, depending on who's in office or how the New York State budget is approved in April, that will change or not change, but at this time it does assume 24-25 levels. It does include contractual salary increases for all our labor unions, CSCA, UUP. So that includes the across the board increases, the discretionary increases, and any lump sum longevity, everything that's included in the bargaining agreements that have been approved. And then also built into the plan is an assumption of 1.39 $1.35 million annually of salary savings. So every year, just kind of the course of doing business, we don't have all of our positions filled all times during the year. Just, people retire, people leave that we weren't anticipating leave. It takes time to fill roles. So some searches last multiple months, some searches fail. We have to regroup to that. So I did a historical look back and then projected a $1.35 million salary savings annually every year built into the plan. So those assumptions, I did update, you'll see the first column is the budget, so that was what was submitted to SUNY in August. The second column is the projection, that I just talked about, where the increased, receipts or revenue. I do at this point in time during the fiscal year, keep disbursements or expenditures at the budgeted levels, because it's really too early in the year to update that. I will update that in the spring. We'll have a better idea of where we'll land for salary savings, where we'll land with our non-salary dollars, but at this point in time, it's really too early to make any adjustments to that, because people also use salary savings to fund other things too, and I don't necessarily have a good idea of what those other things are at this point in time. So then it's positive news. This is really great. So we went into the budget assuming a 5.1 reduction in cash or deficit, and that's now only $3.3 million. The big contributor to this annual reduction or deficit is our dormitory fund. As Karen and others have alluded to, our student mix has changed over the years. And as a result, our students that occupy the dorms has gone down. I think when I started here 8 years ago, we were about 2,100. Now we're down to 1,650. So that's pretty impactful to that fund, because that fund not only offset some of our operations, but the big thing is every year we have about $7 million annually that we have to pay to the Dormitory Authority of New York for our mortgage, our bonds that we borrow to renovate our dormitory halls. So while that's great that we have renovated spaces, we also have to pay for those renovated spaces. And that bill's about the same for the next 20 years. And that is our first bill that we have to pay before we pay ourselves. So we are contractually obligated to pay New York State that bill, no matter what, before we pay ourselves. So that's hugely impactful to this all funds budget. Now, in addition to that, the other thing that our change in student enrollment mix is impacting our fees. So we have another fund, our IFR fund. If anybody of you can recall from our presentation over the summer, our IFR fund, I won't quiz you, our IFR fund is where we take in all our fee revenue. So our IT fee, our athletic fee, our career fee, all those things go into that fund. Now, the change in mix, we have less students on campus, so that means we have less students paying our health center fee. We have less students paying our athletic fee, so that is impactful to that fund as well. So that is driving that cash balance down a little bit. Now, this is a fluid plan. This is a plan. On some years, during the pandemic, I updated this 5 times a day. I was a human calculator. So this plan gets updated at least twice a year. I do a fall and spring update, but sometimes more than that throughout the year, given what's going on. The New York State budget or anything else. So this is a fluid plan. So as those assumptions change or other assumptions change, this plan changes. So, if you go into the out year 28, 29, you see our cash balance is down to about 17 million. So this is just a roadmap. This helps our administration make decisions, and it gives us time to make decisions that could positively impact that ending cash balance. So it's just kind of highlighting, hey, if we don't do something, there could be a problem, and we could be, in a situation where some other comprehensive colleges are. But we have been really good fiscal stewards of our money, have made some cuts throughout the years, have been aligning our expenditures with our revenues, and very cognizant on how we spend our dollars and how we're spending student dollars. So that's why we are in the position where we are. A lot of work has gone into that. But again, this is a fluid plan. You'll see another change to this in the spring, and hopefully our spring numbers will be a little higher than what our budgeted numbers were, and this will again positively impact it, not only for this year, but that helps our cash balance in the out years. So that's that. I know we're pressed for time, so I won't, if you want to hear more on this, come Thursday.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, it was just.
Go ahead.
I was just curious, and I'm assuming it happens, someone survey people who live off campus. Is there anything besides cost that is driving them away from going?
Rules.
Yeah,
Because the cost isn't really that different. Like if you actually have an opportunity to sit down with a student and really talk about what is the true cost, particularly when they have to pay rent over 12 months a year. So there's a variety of things, but a lot of them want their independence. They don't want to live in a very traditional, even though our residence halls are renovated, they're not what students are looking for. The majority of them still are 2 persons to a room, gang showers. They like flexibility, and a lot of them do like to cook for themselves, you know, so that's part of the independence of it. So it's a combination of things. I think most of them will say that finances are a driver, and it is an important driver, but it's not the sole driver. It is about a different experience.
yeah, I was just at Michigan State grandson. Okay, and strangely enough, I walked in on a meeting that was going on with the board of about 3,000 people pertaining to that topic. And of course, they've switched and their dorms are upscale apartment buildings, I swear to God.
Where it was before, we renovated a lot of our residence hall, 2 and 4 person apartments and.
Oh, yeah, well, that was, yeah, and they have a lottery that's
On campus, right, we have.
they have such a demand for that kind of thing. And yet the parents complain about the cost to go to school. Well, if you want your kids in an apartment building that has a gym and its own snack bar, and I just sat there, I was like, God bless you. You know, you do what you do, all of you, my Lord. You know, it's like, are you kidding? Cut this, but build me this exclusive building for my child. Okay, anyway, I'm done.
Something tells me the off-campus housing around here isn't necessarily have gyms and.
Oh, no, but if you're, it really is something. Well, some of them are okay. I mean, you're not living in a dorm situation. You're living in an apartment situation.
My daughter at UAlbany switched from the dorms to the housing situation this past year, and it was mainly food, right? They don't want the requirement of having the food, right? And they want to be able to make their own.
Yeah, most colleges though, and I think here too, right? You can have varied plans. You're not on a.
They were required to have a certain plan.
We have that too.
Oh, you require it? Oh, the other.
Plans.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God, kids are at college, if it's not required, you can buy a two meals a week plan or a, yeah.
First year students have 2 choices of plans, sophomores have 4, you know, it goes up.
Yeah, so must be all of SUNY does the same thing.
It's how each school structures their plans.
Oh, okay.
So for her, that was a major reason.
Yeah.
Getting to live.
It's not, I don't think that's typical anymore, but then again, I'm just running around with grandkids.
And not having a TV right in the room, right? You have an apartment.
That's what I'm, that is what I'm referring to when I'm using that terminology. That's my own word. Yeah.
Jim, you had a question.
I did, on this ending cash balance, I understand these are projections, things change, but the decline is really very, very dramatic, almost unsustainable for another 4 years. Does that make sense?
I mean, again, it is a fluid plan.
I understand that. I'm just saying you go from 38, 33 to 28 to 23 to
So
17.
that's cumulative. So every year you'll see about $4 to $5 million deficit or reduction in cash. Now, the primary reason is, while our enrollment is going up, this plan doesn't recognize any increases in tuition. It recognizes flat state support. Now, if we do nothing with our expenditures and our budgets remain exactly as they are today, we still have to pay our employees, and rightly so, their contractual salary increases. So if we do nothing, our in addition to inflation too, so some of our contracts outside of salary dollars are increasing. Those increase $1.5 million or so each year. Where our revenue is not meeting
I'm not
that.
complaining about,
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about how it's being done or anything. I'm just saying the trend looks dramatically.
Yep,
Around.
so again, one of the driving factors is our dormitory fund, and that $7 million approximately annually that we have to pay to support that bill, and as a result of that, that fund is not now taking in the revenue to support that bill in addition to our operating bills that we have. So as a result, starting in fiscal year 25-26. You know, one of the things that we are doing, because we do have this plan, is saying, okay, that fund can't support all of our operating expenses now. So what are we going to do? We are going to move about $1 million of our utility expenses to our state operating fund, where all of our tuition dollars are. In addition to that, we are moving about $1 million of our institutional gift aid expense to our state operating fund, because our dormitory fund, which has historically over decades been able to support those two big bills for our campus, cannot. So we are being proactive and saying that's not sustainable for that fund. We still have to pay our utilities. We still have to pay our institutional gift aid. How are we going to do that? Well, starting in 25-26, the state operating fund, where our state support and our tuition dollars go, are now going to support that extra $2 million. Because we're not taking in the revenue in that fund. So yeah, I agree. The drop is significant. It's actually much better than our peers and a lot of other comprehensive colleges. We are in a better position. But, you know, Michelle and I were just talking about this. The comprehensive sector is facing a lot of strain because we do not get the level of state support that these university centers do. And the university centers get high levels of state support, they get foundation support, they get high levels of capital support. And they get some tuition increases because they offer other things. So, you know, the equity there
No, I'm not saying.
is concerning, so.
Right, I'm not saying we're doing something wrong. I'm just saying the trend
Yeah.
is.
Yep, so I will say, what you all can do is advocate for the comprehensive colleges to get more state support. So this funding model, even if we do everything right, is flawed. So if we could get more state support or tuition increases or a combination of that to help support those contractual salary increases that our employees so much deserve. But it is a bill that we do not get support for. So if we could change that mix of how SUNY allocates the money within the system, that would be hugely impactful to comprehensive quality.
I'm not suggesting this, I'm not saying this is going out there, I'm just curious within the SUNY trend wise, I want to be careful with this. Health centers seem to be becoming more and more privatized within higher education. Is that a model that you are seeing more within the SUNY system? Elements, components, or all of it being privatized?
State,
What?
Brooklyn. You've been following Brooklyn?
A little bit, but you know, because that seems to be an area that, you know, a lion's share of resources, you know, is going, but I'm not as familiar if SUNY is struggling with making that direction with the comprehensive research, and I know that there's a.
Hospitals are almost their own animal. They have a different funding system tied obviously to federal programming, stuff like that. But yeah, they're also.
So the health center is funded by a student fee, the health services fee. That is a fee that not all students pay. It is a fee that our on-campus students pay. So that is one of the buckets that is hurting so much because of this change in student mix. Now, one of the things that potentially could have a negative or positive impact on this, I'm not quite sure yet, is they are potentially talking about rolling out a comprehensive fee. So we will have to see what that actually means for this campus, if that's positively or negatively impactful to those. I don't know the answer to that yet. But as far as privatization of our health center. I'll be more to Karen. I don't know if you've heard anything about.
No, my two student groups haven't talked about that, but you know, the majority of our employees are on IFRs within the health center and the counseling center. So when we've had retirements, we've stepped back and really made decisions about what positions would be filled. You know, in that model of staffing for the health center and counseling center, we were a much larger institution. So with one of our provider retirements last year, we went from 3 full-time providers to 2 as a way of balancing budget. And so we have another big retirement coming on our, well, we just had it on our medical technologists. And so we're looking at different levels of service that we have to live within our means, but we don't bill insurance. And what we find with a lot of our students, particularly those from New York City, if they have to go, for example, to the emergency room and things, their insurance doesn't transfer to that. So we have an issue with our students and the acceptability of their insurance here.
Right, that's what I was asking.
I think we need to move on, if that's okay. So Kalima, are you still on?
Hi, I am still on.
Okay, it's time for the student association report.
Okay. Sorry again that I cannot be there. I was taking a quiz that ended up being longer than I thought it would be. So what I have for you, is just basically today's Monday. So the Student Association Executive Council will be meeting tonight at 7:30. Another thing is 2 of my coordinators on the exec board went to the student assembly meeting in Syracuse last week, Friday. They also attended by other SUNY SA schools, so we'll be discussing that and what took place there. Something we've been talking about for quite some time, I think since the semester started, was about the potential of holding a block party, but also using that block party to collaborate and help clubs on campus. That way we can get more students involved. This whole block party is about student involvement, so that's what we're centered around. We've created a committee, and most of us are on the board, and others who are interested are also part of clubs. And we talked about the location and backup location and looking for music and activities and what activities the clubs could volunteer for. And the committee will be meeting again tonight. We try to meet every time pretty much after our exec meetings. And we're going to continue the conversation and talk about safety and how to get UP involved. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Kalima? All right, we'll move on. Sandra on?
No, she had to leave.
Okay. Bridget, are you still on?
Hi, yes, I am still here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So not too much to update from Faculty Senate in just over the past month or so since we met last. We did just get a report from the Course Opinions Survey Ad Hoc Committee to Senate that we had reviewed and are in support of adjusting the current COS instrument from the 10 questions there that we are currently using to this new set of 10 questions that was developed in recommendation by the ad hoc committee that has been working for almost 2 years now. That recommendation came about from work from past Senate Chair Dr. Raymond Carmen, a faculty within political science, really looking at how do we enhance our instrument in order to get more formative and helpful feedback for faculty in order for them to be able to improve their courses and improve student success. I think this new instrument is will both require qualitative and quantitative analysis by faculty, but will really provides a less biased approach, I think, to gathering more accurate data from students on key components of courses and course material, so that hopefully we can see greater engagement by students with this instrument, and 2, greater involvement with faculty using this as a tool to really help advance and improve their courses. So we're very excited about that. We have several academic policies that we have been working on that are are really important, like the program learning assessment or prior learning assessment, excuse me, that is going to be coming to the Senate floor in our December meeting. Would encourage you all, if you want to join on Zoom to that. It is 3:30 on December 3rd, or come join us in the alumni conference room in the Angel College Center. Not too much new programs developed, but we did assessment from general education was done and being distributed out, and things are running smoothly.
Thank you. Anybody have questions for Bridget? Okay, Michelle.
Just in addition to what was shared, this morning, got an email from, Office of Employee Relations, and our candidate for the treasurer, leave for the spring semester was approved. Great. So we'll be recruiting for next year now.
Great. Thank you. Any questions on Michelle's report? Okay, Christy.
So we had all of our officers attend the annual delegates meeting in New York City in October. That was very good gathering for all of the state members. The theme was moving forward together. We had a great fall member meeting. We had approximately 90 members attend. It was October 30th in the ballrooms with lunch, and we had the political action coordinator, Brian Gorman, speak. We gave a lot of valuable information for our members. We have more becoming active, joining us on committees that we have to take care of things across the campus. And continuing with professional development and training.
Questions?
Great, this is great to see recommendation and quite a lot to show for your needs.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's during the day, so they have to take some time away and join them. But yeah, it's very good.
Okay, any public comments? Any old business anybody wants to bring up? Any new business? Just looking ahead, winter commencement is Saturday, the 14th. At 10 o'clock, so hopefully a lot of you will be able to be there. And our next meeting is Monday, February 25th. Oh no, Monday, February 10th in 2025. And after we adjourn, we've got a tour for of the Center for Cybersecurity and Technology. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Deb, 5 seconds. All in favor? All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
I had brought up the section to be that.
What?
That's reassuring.
Yeah, I do believe they are.
Oh. Now.
What?
No, I just want to say.
Either online or.
Once we do it.
Good to see you again. It's a long way to go.
Okay.
Folks, thank you, Marcus.